So let's get to it. The book is dedicated to Edward Beechman, my beloved uncle who gave me my first concept of heaven. Every year around the Thanksgiving table, he spoke of a night in the hospital when he was awoke to see the souls of his departed loved ones sitting on the edge of the bed, waiting for him. I never forgot that story, and I never forgot him. Everyone has an idea of heaven, as do most religions, and they should all be respected. The version represented here is only a guess, a wish in some ways, that my uncle and others like him, people who felt unimportant here on earth, realized finally how much they mattered and how they are loved. The 5 people meet in heaven. The end. This is a story about a man named Eddie, and its beginnings at the end. With Eddie dying in the sun, it might seem strange to start a story with an ending, but all endings are also beginnings. We just don't know it at the time. The last 4 hours of Eddie's life was spent, like most of the others, at Ruby Pier, an amusement park, by a great, great ocean. The park had the usual attractions: a boardwalk, a Ferris wheel, a roller coaster, bumper cars, a taffy stand, and an arcade where you could shoot streams of water into a clown's mouth. It also had a big new ride called Freddy's Freefall, and this would be where Eddie would be killed in an accident that would make newspapers around the state. At the time of his death, Eddie was a squat, white-haired old man with a short neck, a barrel chest, thick forearms, and a faded army tattoo on his right shoulder. His legs were thin and faint now, and his left knee, wounded in the war, was ruined by arthritis. He used a cane to get around. His face was broad and craggy from the sun, with a salty whiskers and a lower jaw that protruded slightly, making him look prouder than he felt. He left a cigar behind his left ear and a ring of his keys hooked to his belt. He wore rubber-soled shoes. He wore an old linen cap. His pale brown uniform suggested a working man, and a working man he was. Eddie's job was maintaining the rides, which really meant keeping them safe. Every afternoon he walked the park, checking on each attraction, from the tilt-a-whirl to the pipe line plunge. He looked from broken boards, loose bolts, worn out steel, and sometimes he would stop, his eyes glazing over, and people walking past thought something was wrong, but he was listening. That's all. After all these years, he could hear trouble, he said, in the spits and stutters and thrumbling of the equipment. With 50 minutes left on Earth, Eddie took his last walk along Ruby Pier. He passed an elderly couple. "Folks," he mumbled, touching his cap. They nodded politely. Customers knew Eddie. At least the regular ones did. They saw him summer after summer. One of those faces you associate with a place. His work shirt had a patch on the chest that spread Eddie above the word maintenance, and sometimes they would say, "Hiya, Eddie Maintenance," although he never thought that was funny. Today, it so happened, was Eddie's birthday, his 83rd. A doctor last week had told him he had shingles, and he didn't know what they were. Once he had been strong enough to lift a carousel horse in each arm. That was a long time ago. "Eddie, take me, Eddie, take me." 40 minutes until his death. Eddie made his way to the front of the roller coaster line. He rode every attraction at least once a week. To be certain the brakes are steering were solid. Today was roller coaster day, the ghost coaster, they called this one, and the kids who knew Eddie yelled to get in the cart with him. Children liked Eddie, not teenagers. squinted, never saying much. He figured it was always because he didn't say much that they liked him. Now Eddie tapped two little boys with backward baseball caps. They raced to the carts and trundled in. Eddie handed his cane to the ride attendant and slowly lowered himself between the two. Here you go. Here you go. One boy squealed as the other pulled Eddie's arm around his shoulder. Eddie lowered the lap bar and clack, 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 clack. Up they went. Up they went. A story went around about Eddie when he was a little boy growing up by this very same pier. He got in an alley fight. 5 kids from Pitkin Avenue had cornered his brother Joe and were about to give him a beating. Eddie was a block away on a stoop, eating a sandwich. He heard his brother scream. He ran to the railing, grabbed a garbage can lid, and sent 2 boys to the hospital. After that, Joe didn't talk to him for months. He was ashamed. Joe was the oldest, the firstborn, but it was Eddie who did the fighting. Can we go again, Eddie, please? 34 minutes to live. Eddie lifted the lap bar, gave each boy a sucking candy, retrieved his cane, then limped to the maintenance shop to cool down from the summer heat. Had he known his death was imminent, he might have gone somewhere else. Instead, he did what we all do. He went about his dull routine, as if all the days in the world's work still to come. One of the shop workers, a lanky, bony, cheeky young man named Dominguez, was by the solvent sink whipping grease off a wheel. Yo, Eddie, he said. Tom, Eddie said. The shop smelled like sawdust. It was dark and cramped, with a low-ceiling light and a pegboard walls that held drills and saws and hammers. Skeleton parts of fun park rides were everywhere. Compressors, engines, belts, light bulbs, top of a pirate's head, stacked against one wall, were coffee cans of nails and screws, and stacked against another wall were endless tubes of grease. Greasing a truck, Eddie would say, required no more brains than washing a dish. The only difference was you got dirtier as you did it, not cleaner. And that was the sort of work that Eddie did. Spread grease, adjusted brakes, tightened bolts, checked electrical panels. Many times he had longed to leave his place, find different work, build another kind of life. But the war came. His plans never worked out. In time, he found himself graying and wearing looser pants and in a state of weary acceptance that this was who he was and who he always should be. A man with sand in his shoes in a world of mechanical laughter and grilled frankfurters like his father before him, like the patch on his shirt. Eddie was maintenance, the head of the maintenance, or as the kids sometimes called him, the ride man at pier. 30 minutes left. Hey, happy birthday, I heard Dominguez said. Eddie grunted, no party or nothing. Eddie looked at him as if he were crazy. For a moment, he thought how strange it was to be growing old in a place that smelled like cotton candy. Well, remember, Eddie, I'm off next week, starting Monday, going to Mexico. Eddie nodded, and Dominguez did a little dance. Me and Trees couldn't see the whole family, but he stopped dancing when he noticed Eddie staring. You ever been? Dominguez said. Been to Mexico? Eddie exhaled through his nose. Kid, I've never been anywhere I wasn't shipped to with a rifle. He watched Dominguez return to the sink. He thought for a moment. He took a small wad of bills from his pocket and removed the only 20s he had, 2 of them. He held them out. Get your wife something nice," Eddie said. Dominguez regarded the money and broke into a huge smile and said, "Come on, man. You sure?" Eddie pushed the money into Dominguez's palm. Then he walked out back to the storage area. A small fishing hole had been cut into the boardwalk planks years ago, and Eddie lifted the plastic cap. It tucked on a nylon line that dropped 80 feet to the sea. A piece of bologna was still attached. "We catch anything," Dominguez yelled. "Tell me we got something." Eddie wondered how the guy could be so optimistic. There was never anything on that line. One day, Dominguez yelled, "We're gonna get a holy by all of you." "Yes," Eddie mumbled, although he knew you could never pull a fish that big enough through a small hole. I mean, he's not wrong. 26 minutes to live. Eddie crossed the boardwalk to the south end. Business was slow. The girl behind the taffy counter was leaning on her elbows, popping her gum. Once Ruby Pier was the place to go in the summer. It had elephants and fireworks and marathons, dance contests, but people didn't go to ocean piers much anymore. They went to theme parks where you paid $75 a ticket and had your photo taken with a giant furry character. This sounds kind of like, I don't know, first thing that popped into my head was Disneyland, but whatever, because that's like 100 and something, I think, from what I remember. Also, sorry for the background noise. I live close to an airport, and so there's a lot of planes, so sorry for the pausing. Eddie limped past the bumper cars and fixed his eyes on a group of teenagers leaning over the railing. Grinning, he told himself, "Just what I needed." "Off," Eddie said, tapping the railing with his cane. "Come on, it's not safe." The teens glared at him. The car pool sizzled with electricity. Zap sounds. "It's not safe," Eddie repeated. The teens looked at each other. One kid who wore a streak of orange in his hair sneered at Eddie, then stepped onto the middle rail. "Come on, dudes, hit me," he yelled, waving at the younger driver. "Hit me." Eddie walked the railing so hard with his cane he almost snapped it into two. "Move it." The teens ran away. Another story went around about Eddie as a soldier. He engaged in combat numerous times. He'd been brave, even won a medal, but towards the end of his service, he got into a fight with one of his own men. That Eddie was wounded. No one knew what happened to the other guy. No one asked. With 19 minutes left on Earth, Eddie sat from the last time in an aluminum beach chair, his short, muscled arms folded like a seal flippers across his chest. His leg was red from the sun, and his left knee still showed scars. In truth, much of Eddie's body suggested a survived encounter. His fingers were bent at awkward angles, thanks to numerous fractures from sort of machinery. His nose has been broken several times in what he called saloon fights. His broadly jawed face might have been good-looking once, the way a prize fighter might have looked before he took too many punches. Now Eddie just looked tired. This was his regular spawn of a pier boardwalk behind the Jackrabbit ride, which in the 1980s was the Thunderbolt, which in the 1970s was the Eel, which in the 1960s was the Lollipop Swings, which in the 1950s was Laffy in the Dark, and which before that was the Stardust Band Shell, which was where Eddie met Margarita. Every life has one true love shot. True love snapshot, my bad. For Eddie, it came on a warm September night after a thunderstorm, when the boardwalk was spongy in water. She wore a yellow cotton dress with a pink beret in her hair. Eddie didn't say much. He was so nervous he felt as if his tongue were glued to his teeth. They danced to the music of a big band. Long Leg Delaney and his Everglades Orchestra. He bought her a lemon She said she had to go before her parents got angry, but as she walked away, she turned and waved. That was a snapshot for the rest of his life. For the rest of his life, whenever he thought of Margarita, Eddie would see the moment, her waving over her shoulder, her dark hair falling over one eye, and he would feel the same artillery burst of love. That night he came home and woke his older brother. He told him he'd met the girl he was gonna marry. Go to sleep, Eddie, his brother groaned. Whoosh! A wave broke on the beach. Eddie coughed up something he did not want to see. He spat it away. Whoosh! He used to think a lot about Margarita, not so much now. She was like a wound beneath an old bandage, and he had grown more used to the bandage. Whoosh! What was shingles? Whoosh! 16 minutes to live. No story sits by itself. Sometimes stories meet at corners, and sometimes they cover one another completely like stones beneath a river. The end of Eddie's story was touched by another seemingly innocent story. Months earlier, a cloudy night, a younger man arrived at River Pier with 3 of his friends. The young man, whose name was Nicky, had just been driving and was still not comfortable carrying a key chain. So he removed the single car key and put it in his jacket pocket, then tied the jacket around his waist. For the next few hours, he and his friends rode all the fastest ride, the Flying Falcon, the Splashdown, Freddy's Free Fall, and the Ghoster. Hands in the air, one of them yelled. They threw their hands in the air. Later, when it was dark, they returned to the car, Lot exhausted and laughing, drinking beer from round paper bags. Nicky reached into his jacket pocket. He fished around. He cursed. The key was gone. 40 minutes until his death. Eddie wiped his brows with a handkerchief out on the ocean. Diamonds of sunlight danced on the water, and Eddie stared at their nipple movement. He had been right on his feet since the war. But back at the Stardust band show with Margarita there, Eddie had still been graceful. He closed his eyes and allowed himself to summon the song that brought him together. The one Judy Garland sang in that movie. It mixed in his head now with the cacophony of crashing waves and children screaming on the rides. You made me love you. Whoosh. Do it. I didn't want to do. I splash. Me love you. We. Time you knew it. And all the swish. Knew it. Eddie felt her hands on his shoulders, squeezed his eyes tightly to bring the memory closer. 12 minutes to live. Excuse me. A young girl, maybe 8 years old, stood before him, blocking his sunlight. She had blonde curls and wore flip-flops and denim cutoffs, shorts, and a lime green t-shirt with a cartoon duck on the front. Amy. He thought her name was Amy or Annie. She had been here a lot this summer, although Eddie never saw a mother or father. Excuse me, she said again. Any maintenance? Eddie sighed. Just Eddie, he said. Eddie, can you make me? She put her hands together as if she's praying. Come on, kiddo, I don't have all day. Can you make me an animal? soon as the binoculars resembled a head, ears, body, and tail. A rabbit, the little girl said. Eddie winked. Thank you. She spun away, lost in that place where kids don't even know their feet are moving. Eddie whipped his brow again, then closed his eyes, slumped into the beach chair, and tried to get the old song back into his head. A seagull squawked as if it flew overhead, 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 overhead. How do people choose their final words? Do they realize their gravity, or they feigning to be wise? By his 83rd birthday, Eddie had lost nearly everyone he cared about. Some had died young, and some had been given a chance to grow old because a disease or an accident took them away. At their funerals, Eddie listened as a mourner recalled their final conversations. It's as if he knew he was going to die, some would say, and he never believed that. As far as he could tell, when your time came, it came, and that was that. You might say something smart on your way out, but you might just as easily say something stupid. For the record, Eddie's final words would be, get back. Here are the sounds of Eddie's last minutes on Earth. Waves crashing, the distant thump of rock music, the whirling engine of a small biplane, dragging an ad from its tail, and this, oh my god, look! Eddie felt his eyes dart beneath his lids. Over the years he had come to know every noise around pier and could sleep through them all like a lullaby. This voice was not in the lullaby. Oh my god, look! Eddie vaulted upright. A woman with flat, dimpled arms was holding a shopping bag and pointing at and screaming. A small crowd gathered around her, their eyes to the skies. Eddie saw it immediately. Atop Reddy's freefall, the new tower drop attraction. One of the guards was tilted at an angle, as if it was trying to dump its cargo. 4 passengers, 2 men, 2 women, held onto only by a safety bar, were grabbing frantically at anything they could. Oh my god, the fat woman yelled. Those people, they were gonna fall. A voice squawked from the radio on Eddie's belt. Eddie! Eddie! He pressed the button. I see it. Get security. People ran up from the beach, pointed as if they had practiced this drill. Look up in the sky, and a museum right through turned evil. Eddie grabbed his cane and clumped to the safety fence, ran the platform base. He watered off the keys, jingling against his hip. His heart was racing. Freddy Freefall was supposed to drop 2 guards in the stomach, churching descent, only to be halted at the last instant by a gush of hydraulic air. How did one car come loose like that? It was tilted just a few feet before the upper platform, as if it had started downwards and changed its mind. Eddie reached the gate and had to catch his breath. Dominguez came running and nearly banged into him. Listen to me, Eddie said, grabbing Dominguez by the shoulders. His grip was so tight, Dominguez made a pained face. Listen to me, who's up there? Willie? Okay, he must have hit the emergency stop. That's why the car is hanging. Get up the ladder and tell Willie to manually release the safety restraint so those people can get out, okay? It's on the back of the car. So you're going to have to hold him while he leans out there, okay? Then the two of you now. No, one, you got it. The 2 of you, get them out. One holds the other. Got it. Dominguez nodded quickly. Then send the damn car down so we can figure out what happened. Eddie's head was pounding. Although his park had been free of any major accidents, he knew the horror stories of his businesses. Once in Brington, a boat only fastened on a gondola ride and 2 people fell to their deaths. Another time in a Wonderland park, a man had tried to walk across a roller coaster track. He fell through and got stuck beneath his armpits. He was wedged in, screaming, and the car came racing towards him, and well, that was the worst. Eddie pushed that from his mind. Lucas climbed the ladder. Eddie tried to remember the insides of Freddy's freefall engine: cylinders, hydraulics, seals, cables. How does the cart come loose? He followed the ride visually from the frame before the top, down the towering shaft and into the base engine. Cylinders, hydraulics, seals, and cables. Dominguez reached the upper platform. He did as Eddie told him, holding Willie, and Willie leaned towards the back of the car to release the restraint. One of the female riders lunged for Willie and nearly pulled him off the platform. The crowd gasped. Wait, Eddie said to himself. Willie tried again. This time he popped the safety release cable. Eddie mumbled. The bar lifted and the crowd went, ah! The riders were quickly pulled to the platform. The cable is unraveling, and Eddie was right inside the base of Freddy's freefall, hidden from view. The cable that lifted car number 2 had, for the last few months, been scraping across a locked pulley. Because it was locked, the pulley had gradually ripped the cable's steering wires as if husking an ear cord until they were nearly severed. No one noticed. How could they notice? Only someone who had called inside the mechanics would have seen the unlikely cause of the problem. The pulley was wedged by a small object that must have fallen through the opening at a most precise moment. A car key. John released the car. He yelled. He waved his arms. Hey, hey, it's the cable. Don't release the cart. It'll snap. The crowd drowned him out. It really wildly as Willie and Dominguez unloaded the final rider. Our four were saved. They hugged atop the platform. Tom, Willie, Eddie yelled. Someone banged against his waist, knocking his walkie-talkie to the ground. Eddie bent to get it. Willie went to the controls. He pulled his finger on the red button. Eddie looked. No, 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 don't. Eddie turned to the crowd. Get back. Something in Eddie's voice must have caught the people's attention. They stopped cheering and began to scatter. An opening cleared around the bottom of Freddy's freefall, and Eddie saw the last face of his life. She was sprawled upon the rider's metal base as if someone had knocked her into it. Her nose running tears filling her eyes. The little girl with the pipe-cleaner animal, Amy, Annie, Mom, she heaved almost rhythmically. Her body froze in the paralysis of crying children. Mom. His eyes shot from her to the carts. Did he have time? Her to the carts. Whomp, too late. The car was dropping. Jesus. He released the brake, and for Eddie, everything slipped into water. Emotion. He dropped his cane and pushed it off his bad leg and felt a shout of pain that almost knocked him down. Big step, another step inside the shaft of Freddy's freefall. The cable snapped its final thread and ripped across the hydraulic line. Cart number 2 was in a dead drop. Now, nothing to stop it. A boulder off a cliff. In those final moments, Eddie seemed to hear the whole world. Distant screaming, waves, music, a rush of wind, a low, loud, ugly sound that he realized was his own voice blasting through his chest. The little girl raised her arms. Eddie lunged. His bad leg buckled. His half flew, half stumbled towards her, landing on the metal platform, which trapped through his shirt and split open his skin. Just beneath the path that ran Eddie and maintenance, he felt 2 hands in his own, 2 small hands. A stunning impact, a blinding flash of light, and then nothing. Alright guys, that was today's reading that I read from The 5 People You Meet in Heaven. If you guys like this video, please give it a like and also subscribe. It also helps the channel a lot. And if you guys enjoyed me reading, I might add a card or something into the video that might pop up saying if you want me to continue reading it or not. I also will try to make a community tab where I can post community stuff, like when our video is going to be posted, and so on. Also, if you have any suggestion for videos, please leave it in the comments below so I can get more ideas and also see what you guys like. aggressive triggers, you guys can leave it down below that you did, so I can add it. Also, the next chapter that we'll be reading is today is Eddie's birthday, which basically you're gonna basically just go through the whole birth, basically when he was born, and how it was when he was born, when his mom and his dad. It's gonna be really interesting to see that part. And sorry, I know this chapter was very, 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 very kind of sad in a sense, but this is the way it opens up. As you know, when you start to go to heaven, you have to obviously pass. And they just want to give you some background of the character, which does help, because once you start getting into Eddie's birthday, and you slowly are going to more and more of the chapters, you realize how important it is to hear the death, because it slowly starts to show why it happened and such. So, again, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe. Also, if you haven't checked the previous video, I will try to add an ID card to this channel. If it doesn't, just go to click on my profile on YouTube, and click on the video, and so comment and give it some likes. Also, I just want to give a big thanks for other people who liked the video, and if you're coming from that video, hi, my name is Sam, or I go by Sam. My full name is Samantha, and I started this ASMR channel to relax people, because I also enjoyed it. Also, if you see cars, I'm sorry. I started this ASMR channel because I want to help other people, because ASMR has helped me a lot with a lot of stress